Sometimes you have similar opinions or tastes than other people, and you want to express that. So today we are going to learn how to use también and tampoco in Spanish. Hola, ¿qué tal? Me llamo María, and if this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any lesson, verb conjugation, listening exercise, all in Spanish. Now let's talk about expressing similarities using también or tampoco. This topic might be a little confusing for English speakers, since in English you can simply say me too or me neither. But in Spanish we use it differently, depending on the sentence. Let's start with también. Use it when the sentence you agree with is affirmative. Like this, me gusta la hamburguesa, or trabajo todos los días, or hablo inglés. When you reply back, you have two options. You can say yo también or a mí también. But when do you use each one? Let's look at these sentences. Me gusta la hamburguesa. Me parece necesario. A ellas les encanta correr. Nos duele la cabeza. But what did these sentences have in common? They all have an indirect object pronoun. In our last lesson, we studied indirect object pronouns, and we learned they are me, te, le, nos, os, and les. In this case, whenever you hear them or see them in a sentence, your response should be a mí también. You can also use other pronouns depending on who you are talking about. You can also say a ti también, a él también, a ella también. Now let's check these examples. Trabajo todos los días. Detesto el tráfico. Ella baila muy bien. Soy estudiante. What did they have in common? They all have personal pronouns. You know, yo, tú, él, ella. Sometimes you don't hear them or see them because these pronouns are implicit in the conjugation of the verb. These examples we saw before are also not preferences. In this case, you should answer yo también, tú también, él también, ella también, nosotros también, vosotros también, ellos también. Okay, it's time to practice. Just for this exercise, pretend you agree with all the sentences I am going to say. You can use a mí también or yo también, depending on the sentence. Are you ready? Let's get started. Me gustan los sábados.
3, 2, 1.
A mí también. Estoy casada.
3, 2, 1.
Yo también. Me duele el estómago.
3, 2, 1.
A mí también. Trabajo en una oficina.
3, 2, 1.
Yo también. Cocino muy bien.
3, 2, 1.
Yo también. Now, what if the sentence is negative, like no me gusta el tráfico or no trabajo todos los días? In this case, you should use tampoco. In your response, you should also use a mí or yo, depending on the sentence, just like with the affirmative sentences. So let's take a look at some examples. No me gusta el tráfico. A mí tampoco. No trabajo todos los días. Yo tampoco. It's time to practice again. So for this exercise, again, try to pretend you agree with all the negative sentences I am going to say. In this case, use a mí tampoco or yo tampoco, depending on the sentence. Let's get started. No trabajo todos los días.
3, 2, 1.
Yo tampoco. No me gusta el tráfico.
3, 2, 1.
A mí tampoco. No estoy casada.
3, 2, 1.
Yo tampoco. No me duele el estómago.
3, 2, 1.
A mí tampoco. No trabajo en una oficina.
3, 2, 1.
Yo tampoco. No cocino muy bien.
3, 2, 1.
Yo tampoco. Now, what are you gonna do when you disagree or when you have a different preference than the other person? Are you always gonna have to agree saying yo también or yo tampoco? No, it's very simple. When you have a different preference or a different opinion, simply say the opposite sentence or say your real opinion, like this. No trabajo todos los días. Yo trabajo todos los días. No me gusta el tráfico. Me gusta el tráfico. Okay, it's time to practice. I am going to tell you some of my real preferences, and you are going to say yo también, yo tampoco, a mí tampoco if you agree. And if you disagree or have a different preference, simply say the opposite sentence or your opinion. Alright, so let's get started. Hablo inglés.
Sí, yo también.
No trabajo todos los días.
Yo trabajo todos los días.
No me gusta el tráfico.
A mí también. A mí tampoco.
Bailo muy bien.
No bailo mal. Bailar mal. Help me out here, what am I doing? Bailo muy mal.
No me gusta conducir.
A mí tampoco.
Me gustan los lunes.
No me gustan los lunes. No me gustan los lunes.
How did you do? Let us know if you have any questions in the comments below. As you might know, Cody's test is coming up. He's been practicing and studying on his own as well. So for his test, we are going to Colombia. We are going to see how he does in real-life situations, so look for that in the coming weeks. Also, if you like this t-shirt and you want to get one for yourself or for a friend, make sure to check the link in the description below. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any lesson. Nos vemos en un próximo video, and if you are gonna learn a language, why not Spanish? Ciao! This topic might be a little confusing. Blah, blah, blah. Let's start. Ready? In our last lesson, we studied the indirect object pronouns, and we learned a mí también. Or you can all... So for the test, I am going to go no. As you might know, Cody's... And we're gonna put it to test. No, test. So many tests. Make it simple, because you put very elaborate words.
Sí. Hablo inglés.
Dogs. Or simply your real preference if you don't agree with mine. Let's do that again.
Yeah.